in your student journal, page 271. So word problem. All of the word problems in this section will always look like right triangles. So Miles, you should have out one sheet of paper if you don't have your student journal. In this section, a boat is pulled by a winch. I don't speak sailor, so don't ask me what a winch is, but there it is. On a dock, 12 feet above the deck of the boat. When the winch is fully extended 25 feet, what is the angle of elevation from the boat to the winch? Okay, so the picture's already there for you. This section is all about right triangles, so you need to find where the right angle is. And it will always be where the horizon meets a vertical, anything, a building. In this case, what is that? The deck? No. Whatever this thing is. Okay? After that, it asks for one thing and one thing only. The angle of elevation. When you think of elevation, what do you think of?
Going up.
Going up, an elevator. Okay? So elevation, there are two options. This angle and this angle. Which one looks like it's going upward? The bottom one. This is called the angle of elevation because it opens upward. Right? This one is called nothing really. It just opens downward. So we're really finding only one angle, and it is the bottom angle. You don't need to find the third side because it didn't ask for it. All it asked for, what is the angle of elevation from the boat to the winch? That's all it asked. So you need to find this angle, and you're given two sides. What is 12? Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? The opposite. That's even worse. It's hard to draw on because you can't see anything. What kind of side is 25? The hypotenuse. So which trig function are we going to use? Sine. From what angle are we coming from? We can call it x. You can call it really whatever you want to call it. All right, we'll equal. The opposite goes on top. So 12. And the hypotenuse on the bottom. So how do we solve for x? The inverse. So sine to the negative 1 of 12 over 25.
We have a problem with this on our quiz.
Yes, it'll have the picture and everything. 28.7 degrees. What?
Different numbers.
Yeah, it'll be a different picture.
Oh.
I'm just saying it'll have the picture. All right, any questions? Okay. This is why you need to know all of the trig functions, not just one of them. Because in specific problems, unless you want to find the third side and then find the other angle, knowing sine, cosine, and tangent is very important. All right? Are you good?
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to learn today's. You learned yesterday to solve a right triangle means to find all of the unknown side lengths and angle measures. And there were two types of scenarios that you're going to have. Yesterday we had where you had two side lengths. Today, you're going to be given one side length and the measure of one acute angle. Some find one easier and some find the other easier. I find them both simple as long as you know SOHCAHTOA. All right? So, draw this in the notes section, student journal, page 270.
No.
It's like a big blank section, or you can draw it on a sheet of paper. I don't mind, whichever one. Just drawing. So in this kind of problem, it's different because you're given 25 degrees as one of the angles. And then you're only given one side length. You can't use the Pythagorean theorem if you only have one side length. So you're going to have to do a different route to find the side lengths. The very easiest thing to find, you have two angles inside of a triangle. So how do you find the third? Add and subtract from 180. Or, since 180 minus 90 is 90, you can take 90 and subtract 25.
65.
Yep. So then the measure of angle G is 65. You can put that aside. All right, so I always, again, use what was given to me. Okay, so I'm going to use this 25 degrees. This is the direction I'm going to be coming from. We're still going to set up a trig ratio just like we were doing before. We're going to solve for one side at a time. It does not matter which side you solve for first. What kind of side is 13? The hypotenuse. You always want to use the side that was given to you. You never want to set up an equation with both variables in it, or you literally won't be able to solve for either of them. Okay, so which variable would you like to solve for first? G, sure. What kind of side is G? The opposite adjacent. Which one? The adjacent. From 25. We're coming from this one. So which trig function are we going to use if we have the hypotenuse and the adjacent? Cosine. So we're going to use cosine. So this is where it gets different. We usually write the letter of the angle we're coming from because we normally don't know the measure of the angle. But here we do. What is the measure of angle H? 25. So you're not going to write H. Because that letter that comes after sine, cosine, and tangent always represents the unknown measure of the angle. But we already know the measure of the angle. Okay, so equals, we're still going to put the adjacent. The adjacent on top, which is G, and the hypotenuse on the bottom, which is 13. We want to solve for our missing side, which is G. What is currently happening to G? It's being divided by 13. So what is the opposite of dividing by 13? Multiplying. So you need to multiply both sides by 13. Make sure you put 13 in the front. I'll explain why. So, are we finding the measure of an angle? So you don't use the inverse. You only use the inverse if you're finding the measure of an angle.
So if we don't know the angle, we use the inverse.
Yeah, but we know the angle. It's 25 degrees, so you plug it in as it is. Sorry, Miles. Is this from the last one? Mm-hmm. All right, so somebody tell me what the answer is. What is it? Yep. 11.8. So 11.8. Here is what I want to warn you. Some students would do this instead. They type it in their calculator wrong. Just to show you, type this in your calculator and see what ridiculous answer you get.
Oh, see, I didn't know you were supposed to put that in the calculator because I seen that X right now.
It means times. You should get a negative. Oh, whatever then. Maybe we did on the before.
0.81.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous answer.
That's not right?
No. You're multiplying 13 by cosine of 29. You're not multiplying, sorry, it's 25. You're not multiplying 25 times 13. You're multiplying cosine 25 times 13. So whenever you do this, make sure you put 13 in the front. You don't, when you type it in your calculator, you don't actually need an X or a times or anything like that, because when a number is next to a letter, your calculator knows it's multiplication. Yes, dear? Because we are finding G, which is adjacent to the angle we were given, and then we are given the hypotenuse. So we found G. What is the only side we haven't found now?
H.
H? What kind of side is H? Opposite. So which trig function are we going to use if we have the hypotenuse and the opposite? Sine. So sine, what angle are we coming from?
8.
Well, we know the measure of H is 25. So sine of 25 equals the opposite, which we call it H, over the hypotenuse, which is 13. So we do the same exact thing. Multiply by 13. So type in 13 sine 25, and that's what H will equal.
Can I see the answer?
Sure.
5.5.
Yes, sir. Student Journal, page 270. Sorry, it's actually 271, my first class told me. 271. Solve the right triangle. Round to the nearest tenth again. Number 9. It's very easy to find the first angle. So what's the measure of angle N?
62. Wait, 52.
Be 38.
Wait. Oh.
They're not congruent. So the measure of angle N equals 38. You can either add 52 and 90 and subtract from 180, or you can take 90 and subtract 52. You get the same answer either way.
I was thinking something else.
It's okay. After this, we want to use the angle that we were given, especially if, just in case you make the mistake and write 68 or 62 or whatever was said. So you want to use the angle that was given, which is 52 degrees. What kind of side were we given? Opposite, adjacent, or hypotenuse? There's 3, so what kind of side is this? The hypotenuse. We need to solve for both sides. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you solve for first. You just always want to use the hypotenuse that they gave you. Okay, we can solve for the opposite first for no real reason other than it doesn't matter what order you solve for them in.
Can it only be 1 or 2?
Can it be what? It'll be a decimal most likely. If this is the hypotenuse, it'll be, we'll see. What would you like to call the hypotenuse, or the opposite? What letter?
C.
Sure.
Y.
We can do y next. All right, so we're going to set up a trig function. Which trig function deals with the hypotenuse and the opposite? Sine. So we're going to use sine. What angle are we coming from? What angle? 52. We're coming from this angle. If we don't come from 52 degrees, then C wouldn't be our opposite. Okay, so sine of 52 equals my opposite, which is C, over my hypotenuse, which is 3. To solve for C, you multiply times 3.
So 3 times.
3. Yeah, you can write 3 sine of 52. Again, if you type it in your calculator, a letter next to a number, it knows its multiplication.
2.4.
2.4. All right, so have we solved for all the angles and all the sides?
No.
No. Which one are we missing?
The cosine. Oh.
Well, we're not missing a cosine. We're missing the adjacent side. All right, so we're going to find the adjacent side. We can call it y for no real reason. Find the adjacent. We're given the hypotenuse, so we want to use the hypotenuse. And the adjacent, which trig function are we going to use?
A cosine.
Cosine. So set up cosine. From what angle are we coming from? 52 equals the adjacent, which is y, over the hypotenuse, which is 3. So multiply again. And round to the nearest tenth.
Yeah.
1.8, you said?
Yes.
So good observation, Miles. One of them was 1.8, one of them was 2.4. Number 10 is different. It's going to have a different process. So if you have already mentally checked out, I need you to check it right back in, because this one is different. In the past two, we were given the hypotenuse. Here, we're not. Okay? So we can start the same, find the measure of the angle. This will be angle y. What is 90 minus 29?
61.
Thank you. 61. So take that, put it aside. We still want to use the angle that was given to us, only because I'm trying to help you not make little mistakes. What kind of side is 18 in comparison? Opposite, which means we need to find the hypotenuse and the adjacent. So it's going to end up looking different. It's the same process, but our equations are going to look a smidge different. We can find the adjacent first. We can call it M. So what trig function are we going to use if we have the adjacent and the opposite? Tangent. So tangent from what angle? 29. Equals the opposite, which is over m. Here's where we pause. If you look at the green next to the orange, they're different because in the green, c was in the top of the fraction. In the orange, m is in the top of the fraction. There are not only 3 trig ratios. There are actually 6. If you are in Algebra 2, you will learn the other 3. They're just inverses of the originals. Inverses mean flipped. Okay, they're called secant, cosecant, and cotangent.
Hey.
You don't need to know them now, but I'm going to show you a property that will help you. You have learned from Algebra 1, and before that, what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So, a way to solve for m, you need m in the numerator. So you can flip the right side, but if you flip the right side, you have to flip the left side. So look, what is everything in math invisibly over, including tangent of 29? 1. So we're going to flip both fractions. So you would have the left side turn into 1 over tangent of 29, and the right side will become m over 18. This is actually called cotangent. You don't have to know that yet. If you have a fancy calculator someday, like a TI-83, this is an 84, a graphing calculator, they'll have all 6 of them. And it would be a little bit simpler to type in your calculator.
Wait, that's yours personally?
No, someone left in my class. I have one. Mine's black, not yellow.
We got trouble.
Okay, so we're going to finish. If you're solving for m, multiply by, calm down, multiply by 18. So when you type this into your calculator, you need to make sure, listen, your calculator is going to give you an error if you do not type it in correctly. Do you know how it opens a parenthesis when you do tangent?
Yes.
You need to close the parenthesis. If you do not close it, it will say syntax error. And that's not an error from your calculator. That is user error. So make sure if you open the parenthesis, you have to close the parenthesis.
Hold on, I want to do this one.
So you're going to do 18 times, and then you can make a fraction. 1 over, I'm not asking for the answer yet. 1 over tangent of 29. Make sure you close the parentheses.
Oh, I didn't put 18 yet.
That is correct. What did you do? You only did 1 over tangent of 28. You have to do 18 times 1 over tangent.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
You do.
Is it 32?
Yep, it's 32.5.
Oh, okay, just making sure.
And you found a side, so you leave it like this. Nope. We're going to do the same thing to find the hypotenuse. I'm going to call it R.
Hey, Ms. Marsha,
Yes, dear.
I can use the restroom after this problem.
Yes, sir. As long as you work the problem with me. All right, so we need to use the side that was given to us and the hypotenuse. So that's the opposite of hypotenuse. Which trig function are we going to use?
Opposite, toe up.
Sine. So sine, from what angle are we coming from? 29. Equals the opposite, which is 18, over the hypotenuse, which I have called R, because it's a great letter. So, letter R is on the bottom, so you'll want to flip both. So you'll have 1 over sine of 29 will equal R over 18. This is called cosecant, for those of you who want to wow Mr. Cosin later on. Multiply both sides by 18. Write it on your paper. You don't have to tell me the answer yet.
What is the height? What is the calculator?
You do 18 times, yep, that's good.
Times that, right?
Yep, times that fraction. Make sure if you open the parenthesis at sine, you close the parenthesis after 29.
37.
37.
She didn't ask for the answer.
It's okay. I'm just wanting to make sure everyone can type it in their calculator. Did you get it?
I got it, but I erased it.
Did you get it? You should get 37.1. Yep. Alright, so now we have found all of the sides, M, R, and 61. Alright. This is the last portion of today. Page 266. Yeah, do one of them with me. 266. Alright, this one actually just asks you to find the variables. You could find the angles, 43, because 90 minus 47, 43. It doesn't ask for that. We're going to find the sides. Which side would you like to solve for first?
D.
Sure. What kind of side is D?
A hypotenuse.
Hypotenuse.
Yes, I knew that.
And what kind of side were we given?
47.
In comparison to 47, that's degrees. So the adjacent. So which trig function are we going to use? Cosine. From what angle are we coming from? 47. Equals the adjacent, which is 10, over the hypotenuse, which is D. We still have 5 minutes. All right, so our variable's on the bottom. So what can I do to fix that? Flip them both. So left becomes 1 over cosine of 47, and the right becomes D over 10. This is called secant. Multiply both sides by 10. So you'll have 10 times 1 over cosine of 47.
What if in the calculator you put the fraction first and then you do times 10? Will you get the same answer?
As long as you close the parentheses and everything. And it's not in the denominator.
Gotcha.
What do we get?
14.7.
14.7. Alright, now the only letter we have left to solve for is C. In comparison to 47, what kind of side is C? Opposite. And we were still given the adjacent. So which trig function is that? Opposite and adjacent. Tangent. Tangent, from what angle are we coming from? 47. Equals the opposite, which is C, over the adjacent, which is 10. Do we need to flip this one? No, we don't. 10's on the bottom. So, if it's dividing by 10, we can multiply both sides by 10. So type in 10 tangent of 47.
I'll do that.
You're fine. 10.7. You guys are going to do number 13. You may go, Miles. Number 13, you're finding A and you're finding B.
Are you going to leave that work up there?